Hi, my people. Welcome to my newest birth chart reading. This is something I actually used to do on my YouTube channel back in the day, back when I first started. I think the very first birth chart reading I did, for a celebrity on camera at least, not literally, because child, I've done hundreds, if not thousands, of birth chart readings at this point. But the first celebrity I did in terms of their birth chart reading, I think, was Aaliyah or Michael Jackson back in 2017 or 2016. So here we are. I did a tarot reading, psychic tarot reading on my YouTube channel on Kanye West 2 days ago, I think, and I remember mentioning in the tarot reading how I would be interested to see his natal chart and break his natal chart down, because he just had his energy was just kind of all over the place, and there were some intricate things I noticed in his energy and in the cards where I was like, some of this feels like birth chart related. So I always like to go in, look at the birth chart, diagnose it, and a lot of times when I do tarot readings, it does kind of confirm certain things I see or say in a birth chart reading. So, speaking of which, by the way, subscribe to my second YouTube channel, Lamarr Townsend. Lamarr Does Life, formerly Lamarr Does Life, but Lamarr Townsend. I'm doing my horoscope tarot readings, monthly readings on this channel, along with vlogs, cooking, lifestyle content, and things of that nature. If you would like a personal reading, however, check out my website, lamarrtownsendtarot.com. This is my website, so once you've reached this page, you know you're on the right page. Definitely check out my Twitch as well. Subscribe to my YouTube. Become a member of my Patreon, where I do exclusive content, and my podcast on Spotify. Scroll down, read the reviews from people who have purchased readings from me. Also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. If you would like a reading, however, a personal reading, go right to the store section of my website, lamarrtownsendtarot.com. And you can see I do all different types of readings. I do email psychic tarot readings, phone psychic tarot readings, video recorded psychic tarot readings where you send your questions, and then I record myself doing your reading on my own time, and then I email you basically the download link for that video to keep forever. I do birth chart readings, alright, astrology birth chart readings as well. So if you want a personal reading, much like the one I'm about to do for Kanye, get a birth chart reading. I do candles, I do past life readings, mediumship readings, classes, tarot classes, astrology classes, and so much more. And I'm always adding new things to my website, by the way, so if you'd be interested in any of those things, then definitely check out my website once again, lamarrtownsendtarot.com. So let's go ahead and get right into the tea. I'm just going to type in this is my astrology software. I'm just going to type in Kanye, well, not my astrology software, but the astrology software I'm using. We're going to type Kanye West's name, and then we're going to look for his Kanye West birth date. So here it says June 8th, 1977. I like to confirm with several sources personally. So this says it's from Britannica, which is a pretty reputable source. All right, right here it says Britannica.com. So from that we can trust it, but I like to make sure it shows up. The same thing shows up numerous times. So June 8th, 1977. June 8th, 1977. Biography.com, June 8th, 1977. IMDb, June 8th, 1977. Oh, and it actually says Atlanta, Georgia. Kanye West was born in Atlanta, Georgia. Perfect, because I needed that information as well, so thank you for that. I wonder if it says that on Britannica, though. Does it say that? Yep, it says born June 8th, 1977, Atlanta, Georgia, U.S. Perfect, because I'm going to need that for my birth chart software. So let's get into it. So he was born on 6/8, according to Google and many other reputable sources. He was born on 6/8, 1977. All right, 6/8, 1977. He was born in Atlanta, Georgia. So we'll set the location for Atlanta, Georgia. They also have ATL, which is interesting. I'm just going to choose Atlanta and go safe. And then let's see if we can maybe find his time. Now, when it comes to the time, and also, I don't know, with the whole celebrity thing, it's interesting because sometimes they lie about their birthday. Sometimes, the birth times are, wrong. But, we're just going to go with it. We're just going to trust it. So I put Kanye West's birth time in Google, and it actually says 8:45 a.m. This is from sports.yahoo.com. It says, according to AstroTheme, which actually is a reputable astrology website, Kanye was born on June 8th, 1977, same date, at 8:45 a.m. in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, AstroTheme is an astrology site, actually. So, an astrologer analyzes his birth chart. Okay. This was this year, so once again, 8:45 a.m. It says another source. Oh, it has Kim's birth time here. I wonder if we can find the Astro Theme link that they were talking about. Let's go. Okay, here's the Astro Theme link. Let's go to this. Hopefully it won't take too long to load. Okay, good. So it says Astro Theme says 8:45 a.m. So we're gonna go with that. You know, we're just gonna go with that. So we're gonna set the time for 8:45. I believe it was a.m. right for his birth time. 8:45 a.m. Perfect. All right. So, according to Google, all right, according to numerous reputable sources, once again, Kanye West was born on June 8th, 1977, at 8:45 a.m. All right, in Atlanta, Georgia. So, based on that information, it looks like the information we put into this my astrology software. This astrology software is correct. So this is a snapshot of the planets, what the planets look like in the sky, a 2D snapshot basically of what the planets look like in the sky on the day, month, year, time, and place that Kanye West was born. Very interesting. I'm very excited to dig into this little birth chart reading. It's very exciting. So let's go ahead and dig in. I usually like to start with the sun sign, but I kind of also like to explain, I'm just going to do this as if I were doing an actual birth chart reading for a client, right? So, I usually like to explain like what exactly is we're seeing and what's going on here. So what's happening is in the center, the numbers here are the actual numbers of the houses. So this would be the first house, the second house, the third house, the fourth, fifth, so on and so forth. On the very outside are the actual zodiac sign houses that Kanye West has in his natal chart. So these houses we see, once again, based on the information that we put in, whether it's factual or not, these houses that we see are Kanye West's actual houses, which means that we'll have an ability to look at his rising sign, actually, which is going to be interesting. And then in the center here, we have his actual planets. All right, so that's what we're seeing here. On the right here, we have the aspects in terms of how his planets actually aspect one another. And on the left, I think Kanye may actually be covering this left side. Is just like, a little section where, it refers to the planets again and other points and houses as well. So with that being said, let's dig in. So, according to this natal chart, it looks like that Kanye West has his sun in Gemini in the 12th house, and his 12th house is in Gemini. The 12th house is the house of one's need for privacy, solitude, secrecy, life behind closed doors, one's connection to the spiritual realm. It is also the house of one's hidden strengths and weaknesses. Gemini can be very dual-sided, as we know, all right? And Kanye is a Gemini. Just based off this 12th house alone, to me, this tells me that Kanye West struggles between either two, or I want to say multiple sides of himself, or at least two sides of himself. Now, this could be, in this case, in particular, because he's Kanye West, he's a public figure, this could be to the lowest degree, the most basic common degree, maybe the different sides between his public persona and his, more private behind-the-scenes persona. Which the more private behind-the-scenes persona would be what would be related to this 12th house in Gemini we're looking at right now. All right? However, it's almost like with 12th house in Gemini, the two can become a bit intertwined. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. It's ruled by, traditionally rules the third house. So Gemini is associated with one's young childhood to young adult years. So there definitely could be something prominent, maybe something he doesn't really talk about during his young childhood to young adult years that he experienced or that he draws inspiration from, sadness from, or something like that in some way, shape, or form. This also, because the 12th house is the house of spirituality and one spiritual connection, this also could relate to, as a young child, Kanye West having some sort of either connection to the spiritual realm or ability to connect to the spiritual realm or decipher between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. Now, how he actually copes with that is going to be, dependent on his upbringing. Once again, Gemini also rules intellect, the mind, communication. So there's a lot that goes on in Kanye's mind that he actually doesn't say. Definitely with 12th house in Gemini, he's always been this way. He's been this way since he was a young kid, to be honest with you. 12th house in Gemini can be like seeing ghosts, like paranormal activity, like hearing voices as a young child, at the most extreme end, right? But it also could be related to his upbringing in terms of maybe things he saw in his upbringing, things that were more so behind the scenes, behind closed doors, things he noticed or he picked up on. Because having 12th house in Gemini could also make him someone that could be very perceptive, like that picks up on nuances energetically, nuances in terms of someone's body language, the inflection of their voice, all things of this nature. 12th house in Gemini would make him wildly creative, very imaginative. So I definitely would see where his imaginativeness comes from and the way he sees the world. His sun in Gemini, so let's talk about the sun really quickly. The sun in astrology is associated with one's life purpose, their connection to their higher self, their connection to romance, their sense of creativity, and self-expression. Sun in Gemini, once again we talked about Gemini. Gemini rules communication, intellect, the mind, young childhood to young adult years. So this shows Kanye being somewhat of a prodigy at a young age. So I don't know necessarily, I've been a fan of Kanye, but I don't necessarily know his full life story. I do think, I don't know if he was like studying music at a young age, because the 12th house can deal with music. Gemini in particular can deal with writing, communication, writing lyrics, writing books, communication, just in terms of maybe communicating through one's music, beats, and things of that nature. So this definitely could be where all that comes from. But it would have started at a young age, a very young age, and specifically as a way to calm him down or as a way to keep him grounded, all right? Because that's very important with the 12th house. You want to remain grounded, all right? But yeah, with this 12th house in Gemini, I would not be surprised if Kanye West, starting as a young child, had some sort of paranormal experiences or paranormal activity. This may have also been where maybe issues started to come in terms of him expressing himself and processing information a little bit, because once again, there's almost like when we have 12th house in Gemini, Sun in Gemini in the 12th house in Gemini, and Gemini rules the mind, there can almost be, I don't know if I want to say like a disconnect or more so like a split between the spiritual realm, the creative realm, and the logical realm. Gemini rules the logical realm. The 12th house is the house of the spiritual realm. So these are the two realms that some way, somehow, whether he knows it or not, that Kanye West dwells in, all right? We have his rising sign in Cancer, which would actually be really interesting, actually. If, in fact, his rising sign is in Cancer, assuming that all of this information would be correct, I could definitely see his rising sign being in Cancer, and I could definitely see to be honest with you, his sun's in Gemini being in his 12th house. Rising sign in Cancer, by the way, we don't have any planets here in his first house, but his rising sign in Cancer, the first house is also associated with the ascendant. It's also called the rising. So they all mean the same thing. But the first house is one's physical appearance, one's self-image, how one sees themselves, how other people see them. It's the first impressions the first impressions that one makes. It's also how one goes about getting what they want in life, how one expresses their raw energy. So in terms of his physical appearance, Cancer is associated with the moon. So or is ruled by the moon. So Cancer and the moon are both associated with the fourth house, which is about family, home, motherhood, energy. So he definitely could be a mother's boy, as we very well know. That's probably where that comes from, his rising sign in Cancer. He may also, with his Cancer rising, like almost like look at his mother as someone to aspire to or look up to in some way, shape, or form. I know she was a teacher in some way. So the first house can also deal with leadership as well. So it's almost like he may take after his mother, or he may have seen his mother in terms of the way she led certain people, and he kind of adopts that to himself. But you know what I kind of get from all this, to be honest with you, like I don't know. I'm just channeling energy, but also reading the chart. It's kind of like, to me, in the like most extreme form. Um, it kind of like can be like a Jason Voorhees or a Norman Bates kind of thing. Where there's almost like a vengeance for the mother here, because we know his life trajectory, we know his story, so we know how the mother plays a role already in his life. So that's kind of interesting. But like I was saying, Cancer is also associated with one's emotions, family, the home, one's need for emotional security, one's emotional expressions. So this would kind of explain his emotional outburst, but this would also explain the image of him, appearing to be at least a great father, a family person, a family man, and that kind of thing. So Cancer is the family. So a family is, as a Cancer rising, would be part of what makes him feel almost like he's at home, or it would be part of what makes him feel like he's complete in a way. You know, um, Cancer rising can also show him. Cancer can be nurturing, but Cancer also can be like to be nurtured. All right. So in his case, he definitely could be a nurturing person, and he may come across that way. Probably when you initially meet him in person, depending on the context and circumstances, of course. Right. But he can probably come across in person as nurturing, very kind, very sweet, very empathetic, sympathetic. These are all traits of Cancer. Traits of Cancer also can be moody, though. Cancer can be very crabby. Remember, it's the crab, so we've seen that with him too. That can be definitely explains that all that energy with this Cancer rising we're seeing. But Cancer can also, like I said, like to be nurtured. You know, it seeks nurturing from the mother. It likes to be mothered, in some way, shape, or form. So I always say also Cancer energy can sometimes be prone to recreating family dynamics and in their interpersonal lives. So they may have, like a work family, a work mom, a work dad kind of thing, a work sibling, a work brother. Like they can be those types of people. So he could be that type of person. But as we know, family fight, sibling fight. But when you're not family by blood, what do those makeups look like with Kanye? That's kind of an interesting thing to pinpoint. I'm interesting to look at his fourth house, because I'm seeing a lot of things. We'll look at what family means to him, or meant to him growing up, looking at his fourth house. But yeah, with his Cancer rising, it totally makes sense to me. This would make him, by the way, a Gemini sun and a Cancer rising, which is so far a combination between water and air. So he's so far a mix between water and air in terms of his sun sign and his rising sign. Rising sign in Cancer would make him very sensitive as well, to be honest with you. And the way he expresses his raw energy, it can be very emotional. It can be very raw. It can be very passionate. Like sometimes where it may seem like he's on the verge of tears, or he may actually be on the verge of tears, that kind of thing. So that's interesting. All right, I want to look at his moon. His moon sign is in Pisces, here in his ninth house in Pisces. So the ninth house is the house of good luck, optimism, stepping outside one's comfort zones, travel, higher education, higher learning. things of this nature. So he has his ninth house in Pisces. Pisces is once again traditionally ruled by Neptune, although Pisces is co-ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter rules the ninth house traditionally, so this is actually a good placement for him. This shows him being someone that's very creative in the sense that he uses his intuition, and once again his connection to spirituality. So I definitely would not be surprised, because the ninth house deals with higher education, higher learning. I wouldn't be surprised if he's, taking classes on spirituality, or if he's studied certain things when it comes to spirituality, religion. I know he has, like, for example, his Sunday, what is it called? The Sunday school or something like that. Every Sunday he would bring the people to sing, that, whatever that was. That definitely could be his ninth house in Pisces here. Ninth house in Pisces could also be trying to change the landscape, the shape, or the form of what religion looks like or what spirituality looks like. So this could be where that comes from as well. This also could become where his like out of the box creativity comes from too. Like he may be influenced or inspired by different cultures, different religions, different spiritual practices, things of this nature. Especially with his moon in Pisces being here in his ninth house, he may have also been exposed to these types of things at a young age. So it's kind of like the energy of he could have grown up in a family or a household where there was a sense of freedom in terms of expression, in terms of discovering your true self, your true path. But that can, especially with moon in Pisces and the ninth house in Pisces, lead to a little bit of what's the word I want to use? It can lead to like a lack of structure, an emotional basis for emotional expression, particularly with his moon in Pisces here. So his moon is in Pisces. This deals with his emotions, his emotional expressions, his emotional instincts, things of this nature. I don't know why I'm literally hearing flashing lights. That's one of my favorite songs by him. I wonder if that song was inspired by his moon in Pisces here in the ninth house. Moon in Pisces, though, would show him he probably, because Pisces can be very secretive, the moon is how you express yourself, your connection to your family. If you actually pay attention, he's very secretive about his family. And, the family environment he comes from. He doesn't talk very much about his dad. Talks a lot about his mom, but we don't hear anything else outside of that, really. I think this deals with his moon and Pisces in his ninth house. This could be, like, in order to create mystery and, like, an austere kind of thing in terms of his image. Moon in Pisces also would show him being someone, in terms of the way he expresses his emotions, definitely could be through channeling it through creativity, through some sort of spiritual expression. He may like to get away, travel even, that kind of thing. He definitely could be someone that's optimistic, overly optimistic, but then like his emotions could be at stake. And in terms of if he misses his target, like his emotions could, be very up and down, or, something like that, very problematic. As Pisces, when uncontrolled, can be that way. But also having moon in Pisces would show him being someone that there could be something where he learned certain spiritual practices or spirituality through his mom or his mother's side of the family, definitely. This could be child religion, Christianity, this could be voodoo, whatever, This could run the gamut with this being in the ninth house. But just some interesting energy to pay attention to. Let's just kind of quickly brush through his other aspects that may play a part in terms of maybe helping us understand him a bit more. I will also say, though, that having his moon in Pisces in the ninth house could also, in the ninth house in Pisces, could show his family being very dispersed, even either in terms of their location, because the ninth house can deal with long distance, in terms of location, or just in terms of their beliefs and their opinions. All right? So his 10th house is in Aries. The 10th house is his actual career, professional destiny, status in society. Aries is the energy of leadership. Aries is the energy of masculinity. Aries is the energy of breaking molds, being a trailblazer, things of this nature, typically being the first to do something. He's definitely reached some goals in terms of his career, his purpose in life in those realms. Aries, though, can be very destructive at the same time. Aries can, thrive off of power, very much so to the point of being a bit problematic. So it's interesting what he's going through right now. He also has his Mars in Taurus here. Mars, once again, is the ruler of Aries. Mars is how one expresses their raw energy, how one goes about getting what they want in life. His image could also be very integral to his career too, because Aries deals with one's image, as well. So one's physical appearance too. So Mars in Taurus. Taurus deals with money, finances, personal belongings. It's traditionally the ruler of the second house. So he definitely could be money minded, money focused. To be honest with you, very much about stability. Very much about maybe having, can be Mars and Taurus can be a bit materialistic. To be honest, Mars and Taurus can be a bit also lazy to some degree, or it can get very comfortable, complacent, particularly maybe in one's career, particularly like once things have been a certain way for a long time. It's like the energy of, well, oh, well, things are never changing, which could be part of what got him into this situation in the first place, because things may not change in his world, but things are actually changing in the world, at large. And now, as a result, things are changing also in his world. So it's interesting how that comes full circle, which is the 10th house, karma. All right, so that's interesting. The 10th house is also karma. So this definitely could be karma in terms of money, karma in terms of relationships. Venus is also, his Venus is in Taurus in the 10th house. Venus is how you make your money, how you spend your money. All right. So this is kind of interesting. This definitely could be, karmic related in some way, shape, or form. The interesting thing with Taurus is that Taurus, like I said, can be a bit materialistic, but the opposite of Taurus is Scorpio, which doesn't necessarily find value in things, but, value in spiritual growth, evolution, things of this nature. So this could be the period he's going through. He could be going through some sort of dark night of a soul or something like that. But yeah, Venus and Taurus definitely would show him being like someone that's about money, finances, personal belongings, ownership. This is part of what he works for. This is definitely what his career has been able to sustain him and provide him. In terms of Venus and Taurus, he could also be attracted to money. People who have stability or something going for themselves in some way, shape, or form, or people who value money, finances, business in some way. All right, as well. Venus and Taurus could also show him being someone where he may like to be very lavish. In terms of his love language. He may like to provide things for his partners. He may like to do things for his partners. He may like to uplift his partners, upgrade his partners, which is arguably what we could say he did with Kim Kardashian. Interestingly enough, Taurus is ruled by Venus. His Venus is in Taurus, and I believe Kim Kardashian is a Libra, which Libra is ruled by Venus. So that's interesting. Guess we could say in that way they were made for each other, right? All right, his 11th house is in Taurus, so we have a lot of energy going on here in the 11th house. 11th house is the house of friends, acquaintances, social groups, social networks, and things of this nature. With his 11th house in Taurus, he has to be careful of having friends around him who only are befriending him for what he has or, what he can provide others. He may have a lot of these people around him. This can also be like paying people to be your friend, or like there being like that kind of dynamic or, something like that. Or like, it can be that kind of thing. 11th house in Taurus, though, he could be someone who's great with collaboration in terms of business. 11th house in Taurus would show him being, this is where he has the ability to, collaborate and make partnerships with a Balenciaga and with a JP Morgan and with a, Adidas, because of his part of his 11th house in Taurus. Particularly when it comes to social media, the internet technology, which is the era he kind of came into. All right. That's also a part of his probably networking bargaining tool, which is the case with a lot of celebrities in general. That's how it works. All right. We have his Mercury in Taurus in his 11th house. Mercury deals with communication, intellect, the mind. Taurus is once again money, finances, personal belongings. In terms of Mercury and Taurus, this is where that singing comes from, because Taurus rules the throat. It rules the neck. 11th house is also the house of humanitarianism, giving back. So not only is him using his voice in terms of singing a way of giving back for him, using his voice in terms of speaking out, the way he speaks out is in his mind a way of giving back. He also could once again be surrounded by people who fuel this within him. All right. He has his Lilith in Gemini. Lilith is the darker side of one's personality. So this could be the energy of he has to be careful of the people he has around him, because the people he has around him could bring out the darker sides of his personality. With Lilith and Gemini, Gemini's communication, intellect, the mind. This is spewing all of that, those negative things, those anti-Semitic remarks, with that Lilith and Gemini. But this, with the way I see it here, it's not just him, it's the people around him who may be feeding that too. I always say that's confirmation. Confirmation. That truck that just went by. So he may have people around him who believe in this, or who, feed him these types of beliefs, opinions, so. The people, he surrounds himself could be his downfall. His Jupiter is also in Gemini. Jupiter is a planet of good luck, stepping outside one's comfort zones. Jupiter in Gemini can actually be a problematic placement, because Gemini is the polar opposite of Jupiter. So this shows where he definitely puts his foot in his mouth or messes himself up by surrounding himself with certain people, particularly money-hungry people, career, people who want to climb, up the ladder kind of thing. Basically, it's like the energy of, he can provide them something. But in the end, he sells himself short with his Jupiter in Gemini. With Jupiter in Gemini, it's like it's often missing. He can often miss the mark to some degree. But maybe he thinks he's right on the mark. This can be that kind of energy. Very creative, very outside the box, but he may also miss some key details as well. Or he may sometimes miss the bigger overall arching, idea or plan, or there could be a disconnect between the two, the details and the bigger overall arching idea or plan. By the way, remember, if you want your own birth chart reading, visit LamarrTownsendTarot.com. All right, let's move on to his second house in Leo. His second house, first of all, the second house was money, finances, personal belongings. His second house is in Leo. Leo deals with creativity, self-expression. It also deals with romance, childhood, things of this nature. So this definitely could show him, always wanting to make money, by being creative, always wanting to make money via the entertainment industry or via some sort of creative field or vehicle. And, he made it happen. With a second house in Leo, at the level that he's at, creativity is the way he makes his money. His charisma is the way he makes his money. This is, he may be down now, but with the second house in Leo, he'll be up again, especially because he has his Saturn in Leo in his second house. Saturn deals with one's, once again, career, professional destiny, status in society. Saturn also does deal with the father, so I'm wondering, what his relationship is with his father. Does his father ask for a lot of money? Or, what was the deal with the father and money growing up? Because I don't remember, was the mother and the father together? Did the father pay child support? What does that look like? What does that dynamic look like between money and the father here, having Saturn and Leo here? The father could feel entitled to Kanye and his money in some way. It's, how Kanye deals with that is up to him, of course. But yeah, Saturn in Leo, Saturn in Leo is a career in creativity, a career, in expressing himself, a career in, it can be specifically a career in acting or something like that, but he's exactly where he's meant to be. Leo is creativity, Leo self-expression, Leo is childhood energy, so he's where he's wanted to be since he was a child, But now this could also be about creating a legacy for his own children. And maybe learning from the dynamic of money in particular, and his relationship with his father, and him as the father, and his relationship or dynamic with money and his children. All right. Once again, I don't know if that's a touchy subject, but I'd be interested to know what went on with that. All right, we're kind of coming around the bend here. I'm not going to look at his whole chart, just the basics here. I just want to get a basic rundown. His fourth house is in Libra, so the fourth house deals with one's emotions, emotional expressions, emotional instincts, what one needs to feel emotionally secure and safe in the world. Libra is relationships, one-on-one relationships, business partnerships. It's also marriage. It's interesting. I think once again part of the appeal with his fourth house in Libra and him marrying Kim, because Kim's a Libra, would probably be her family. Like, I think there's something where Kanye, where he craves a family dynamic that's balanced, that's harmonious, or at least seems this way. Where everyone has an interpersonal relationship or a personal relationship with each other that's different. However, it's interesting because he has his Pluto retrograde in Libra, which Pluto's the generation he comes from. So he comes from the generation of love, peace, harmony, the 70s, marriage, and you stick together, you stay together. He comes from a generation of that kind of thing. Having leaders to look up to and following in their footsteps, or following the paths laid out before you, because this can also be Libra energy. And maybe where marriage wasn't ideal. Once again, that would be the Pluto and Libra generation he comes from. But he has his Pluto in Libra retrograde, so it's like that ideal in terms of the generation he grew up in was never really the ideal that he saw or what he saw growing up in his household or in his family dynamic, to some degree. Because it's retrograde, Pluto can be, trauma we go through. It can be difficulties we go through. So he's definitely gone through some sort of difficulties, with that in his family life. His North Node is retrograde also in Libra, so North Node deals with his blueprint for his current life's purpose, why he comes into this lifetime. Ironically, Libra, once again, is about, harmony, peace, beauty. So he's meant to create beauty in this world. He's meant to create peace in some way, shape, or form. But it's through relationships. It's through making connections with others, which is interesting because he seems to be doing the opposite of that. He seems to be distancing or separating himself from others, so that's kind of interesting. Once again, North Node retrograde in Libra. So he may have also grown up in a family or a family dynamic where there was almost like a militaristic, or it's an us versus them kind of vibe. Like he could have grown up in that kind of environment where it wasn't so harmonious. There was maybe no peace or sense of peace. All right. His Uranus is retrograde in Scorpio in his fourth house, so he definitely had like a difficult upbringing growing up in terms of his family life, but he can have some difficult, emotional trauma. He has emotional trauma with his Pluto retrograde and his North Node. By the way, his South Node would be in Aries, so his South Node is his past life energy. So in a past life, he could have been involved in war. In a past life, he definitely could have been a male or had male tendencies. There could have been aggression. There could have been a past life, something along dealing with the energy of, once again, his image or his appearance being just as important as now, right? But when you have North Node in Libra, when you have South Node in Aries, it's about you. But when you have North Node in Libra, it's about you and others, and he struggles with that. I think maybe he grew up in a family or a family environment as well where there may have been an issue there, where maybe there was selfishness in the home. Maybe, the mother, may have been about her to some degree. Which we're all human, His Uranus is in Scorpio. Uranus is friends, acquaintances, social groups. So he may have had also a difficult upbringing growing up in terms of fitting in with his peers. Particularly because of his upbringing, he definitely probably may have been bullied. Even in his own family, his own home, his home environment, community. Something along those lines. There definitely is trust issues here as well with Uranus retrograde in Scorpio. Trust issues in terms of the people around him. But once again, this would deal with family. So this could also be a family friend or something like that related. Alright? Uranus retrograde in Scorpio. He has trust issues, emotionally trusting people. He may have trust issues emotionally opening up to people. He can also be very sporadic or very unpredictable in terms of his relationships with people. Maybe the littlest thing you say or do could upset him. Alright, lastly, his fifth house is in Scorpio. The fifth house is the house of creativity, self-expression, romance, Scorpio's Pluto, so this is depth, evolution, change, growth. As he grows and evolves in his life, and we've seen this with his art, with his music and things like that. He changes. You know, his art changes, his music changes. It does not stay the same. It will not stay the same. It will never stay the same. He's going to always grow and evolve into a new and different artist. All right, a new and different way of expressing himself, based off of what he's gone through. All right, and how he deals with that trauma and that healing and that evolution. His vertex is in Sagittarius, so vertex is fate and fated events in his life. Sagittarius deals with higher education, higher learning. So changes in his life could bring him to points of like learning more about himself, learning more about life, learning more about religion, different cultures. Could bring him to a point of traveling even. This could be a really good thing for him, actually, like stepping outside his comfort zones. All right, it's like the energy of you hit rock bottom, and you, like you've always said, for example, like, you know, oh, I'm atheist, I'm never going to be religious, and blah 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 blah. But then you hit rock bottom, and it's like, I know I said I'm not religious or atheist, but God, I need you. And then you end up getting baptized. It can be that kind of thing. Like, you know, it's like, you know, it brings you to a point of change and growth within yourself. Lastly, his Neptune is retrograde in Sagittarius. Neptune is one's need for privacy, secrecy, life behind closed doors. Sagittarius is open-mindedness, stepping outside one's comfort zones. His issue is that he says everything that goes on in his mind, everything that goes on behind the scenes. He doesn't really know how to keep a secret, particularly if telling the secret would benefit him in some way, shape, or form. Now, with this being retrograde, it probably backfires on him a lot, which is exactly what happened here. With his anti-Semitic remarks, you know, about Jewish people, it backfired. But there's something secretly going on behind the scenes where he may be surrounded by people, or there may be a culture of people around him where it was acceptable around those people, right? So he's not the only one who thinks this way or believes the way he believes or thinks. Know that there's a legion, or, you know, at least 2 or 3 people or a team of people behind him feeding these exact same thoughts, opinions, and beliefs, or agreeing with them. All right? Whether these people are yes men, these people are part of his close circle, you know, it is what it is. Kanye, based on your natal chart analysis, you definitely need to be mindful of the company you keep. And therapy would be a good thing for you, particularly in terms of dealing with your emotions. I think that's the biggest issue with you, is dealing with your emotions in a healthy way. I think that's why we see these outbursts. There's a lot you keep hidden in that needs to come out. I don't think it all comes out either through your art or creativity, or I don't think it all comes out in like concisely in the way you want or hope it to or expect it to. I think the way it needs to come out is it needs in terms of creativity, self-expression, like it needs to come out in a way where, like, for example, if you have trauma related to being bullied, like, you want the art and creativity that comes from that to be able to also relate to other people who have been bullied or traumatized from being bullied. You know, like, it needs to be that kind of thing. So that's my analysis of Kanye West's natal chart. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Once again, if you would like your own natal chart reading, check out my website, LamarrTownsendTarot.com. I would love to read for you, and I am available for personal readings, so do not hesitate to reach out. Love and light, God bless, and I'll see you in the next video, or I'll see you in your own personal reading. I have a client to get to now, so I'll see you soon. Love and light.